War or no war? Which side are you on? If war happens and you're in small business, it could be detrimental.
Bombs, drones, whatever.
Sleeper
Technology,
cells?
I mean, freaking COVID 2.0. I told my son, I was like, you better pay attention because you might be strapping on camo and
Yeah. We all know that the money is probably going to dry up in some way. It's going to get shifted. Man, I say we start with the money drying up, because we're always talking about, we've had PE people come in. We're always talking about potentially taking chips off the table, this, that, or the other, right? And PE is a big business right now, coming in. People like Hometown buying up service businesses. They've had them in a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different business lines through the years. And in my opinion, that if we go into all-out war, if America goes into all-out war in the Middle East, the money is going to get spent a lot differently than what it's getting spent right now.
well, 100%, because especially if we start going to war and something happens right here on the homeland like 9/11, right?
Talking about like bombs coming our way?
Bombs, drones, whatever.
Sleeper
Technology,
cells?
I mean, freaking COVID 2.0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like right now, like we're on the brink of doing something great as a nation, but we're also on the brink of it could go the opposite effect really quickly. So I think not only will you have, if we go into a major world war, I think China could go into and start trying to take over Taiwan at the same time that we're trying to fight a Middle East war. At the same time, we're trying to help Ukrainian. At the same time, we're trying to take out cartels at our borders. And
So you're saying like since we're using our resources all over here, people can utilize that for their own advantage and then
Yes.
come in and have their own agendas.
because I don't care how big of our military is, we have limited resources too.
I get it.
You know what I mean? There's only so many bullets that we can pop out. There's only so many drones that we can pop out. There's only so many. Now, granted, it's probably going to take us a while to shoot all that. So if we do shoot all that, we start having to get worried about building more of it. There's probably going to be a lot of decimation going on worldwide. So, but let's go back to money. So what do I think will happen? I think if we keep the war over there, I think it could play a fact as far as depending on how much it escalates, right? People start drawing their money back a little bit, and they stop being a little bit entrepreneur. They pull that back a little bit. Interest rates lend less money because there's more uncertainty in the market. Private equity, they get funded by endowment funds and other different types of large capital sitting out there. Those funds might dry up, right? I think the biggest deal is for most people, lend money from banks, and that's your biggest, lender in the world is banks. And if they dry up, it's going to hurt equipment sales, car sales, home buying. Because if, we get in a war over here on a homeland, I mean, people are going to lose their jobs. How are they going to pay house payments and car payments? And it's going to put a lot of stress on the banks.
And there's already a ton of stress on the banks right now.
Yeah, I mean, banks have a lot of debt due that's going to get recapitalized at a higher interest rate, and that's not going to be a good thing for these banks.
Not gonna be
If you have no personal guarantee on it, right? If you have a personal guarantee on it or not a personal guarantee on it, and you can't pay the payment, you can't pay the payment.
Yep.
The difference is when you can't pay the payment and you have a personal guarantee, the banks go after your personal stuff. They have your cars, your houses, and whatever else you pledge. You can't make the payment and you don't have a personal guarantee on it, the bank takes the risk. But they took the risk knowing what they knew going forward, in the front end. But the banks take the risk and you walk away and live to see another day. Yeah, you might not go lend money out from that bank, but there's a bank on every other corner.
Yeah, I mean, but in my opinion, the difference is that, banks aren't in the industry of owning a bunch of homes either, right? So there becomes the issue, right? Is that if the banks take in all these homes, right? They're not in that industry. They're in the industry of lending out money only.
Well, what people don't understand. Let's talk about more of the psychology of this, because I think when 9/11 happened, I was working, for myself at that point in time, right around there, and I think since America is a melting pot of culture and color and all different types of people that we have over here. And then we go get in a war with the Middle East, and they're heavy Muslim with some Christian, right? And then all of a sudden we get hit on our homeland. I mean, if I was a Muslim, I would be, or a Middle Eastern descent, I'm not going to lie to you, I'd be a little nervous over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think they were already kind of nervous with the 9/11 whole deal, right?
Yeah, it'd be like us.
You get profiled to some degree.
I mean, to be honest with you, it'd be like us going to the Middle East and there's two white guys walking
Same
around.
thing.
They're like, are they military? What's going on? They're going to profile us. I mean, they had the right to do that, you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, it sucks. The war's not good for anything. It's not good for business. It's not good for home life. It's not good for money. It's not good for the global economy. It's not good for anything, especially when war with America. Yeah. We got more money floating around than anywhere. That's why most countries trade off the USD. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when we start pulling back the USD because we have to use it ourselves and we're not lending it out as much, it's not a good deal, you know?
Yep. And so the next big point, we all know that the money is probably going to dry up in some way. It's going to get shifted. I wouldn't say dry up. It'll likely get shifted, whether it get held back and they just hold on to it.
Put it on pause.
Or they put it somewhere else. We don't know yet, right? But I can say with almost surety that there's a lot of pausing going to go on, and they're going to be waiting and figuring out where am I going to put it, because you can't start. They're trying to get their 10-15% when they're going to these service businesses, right? They're trying to deploy the money, make the turns, make their 15%, and move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. Well, when there's a lot of uncertainty there, do you think that, and it's already pretty high risk. So if everybody's watching, it's already kind of a high risk game. When you come in here and you buy service companies, try to wrap them all in together and sell them off to somebody else, you're just selling a concoagulation. What am I looking for?
I don't know. That's new. Is that a new word?
Yeah,
concoagulation.
A culmination of EBITDAs from different companies. You're selling them, and then you're just rolling it out, and you're getting your 10, 15, whatever percent. Well, if service is getting hindered because of war, they're obviously not going to want to do that because it's high risk game.
Well, here's the deal: money's smart, and people that control a lot of money are usually really smart, or they have a lot of resources. So the money's still there; it's not going to dry up. The liquidity is going to be there; it's just not going to be getting funneled to certain markets. So if they start seeing a lot of foreclosures, there's going to be a lot of upside in real estate, right?
Yep.
So the money will just get reallocated to a different department and a different focus really quickly.
Yep.
And they're going to try to the thing with money is, you know, they try to find the highest rate of return on their capital for the quickest turnaround time. So it might not go to our businesses. It might go to somewhere else. It might
military
go to,
contracts.
It might go to our businesses. I mean, hey, who's that guy that sold? You see him all the time on Tik Tok and all that. He's like our age. He's doing those military contracts now with drones and stuff.
I see the guy.
He has like a goatee.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That goofy looking
killing
dude.
It. Yeah, he's killing it. All right.
He's making bombs and drones.
Yeah,
and he's a Trump supporter too.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Don't know his name. So
I mean, I got to think about something different for you watching. I'm a young parent, but I have a 15-year-old, about to be 15-year-old girl, and I have a 13-year-old boy. Last time I checked, you know, the Iraq war was like a 20-year-old war.
Yeah. Are you getting what are you getting in the draft or?
I'm thinking I told my son, I was like, you better pay attention because you might be strapping on camo and
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. If they end up instituting another draft, we haven't seen one. Like my father was drafted, but if they institute another draft, then what do you think that's going to do?
Well, think about this one.
It'll be labor shortages for us.
Well, think about this. You know, women want equal rights in all matters. They draft women the same way they draft boys.
I mean, you would think so.
They go strap on camo and AR-15 and grenades on those people?
Yeah. How about those? How about those equal rights?
About that. I mean, you want equal rights.
Yeah, how about those equal rights?
You know? So you got to watch what you ask for.
I agree.
Because it could come full circle back around to your own kids that you voted for something that you may or may not like at that point in time, and you cannot untwine at that point in time.
I don't disagree.
You know, I don't want my daughter strapping on camo.
Hell no.
She complains about taking out the laundry.
Well, every time she runs, doesn't she mess her knee up?
Yeah, well, she probably couldn't get drafted.
She probably couldn't.
But I mean, you know, I'm personally thinking about that. Think about if you own a business and you're operating and you're still doing good, but you have 5 or 6 of your key employees that had to send off their son or daughter. You think they're going to be as focused?
Yeah, your productivity, and just in general, I think your productivity of your individuals, if we were in some kind of an all-out war, you would see some kind of a shift in productivity because somebody, a loved one that every individual knows, is probably going to be associated with that, right? So they're going to be wondering what the heck's going on. Things just are not going to be the same. And
Well,
I
not only
can't
that,
stress
we don't
enough.
fight wars with people anymore.
You say that.
I mean, we do, but we fight it with technology. We fight it with drones. We fight it with bombs and Air Force. You know what I mean? So the only way that these, in my opinion, I'm not no war expert, but I'm just speaking for redneck terms, you know. How would I take down America? Well, you can't take them down, you know, going face to face. You got to take them down being like guerrilla warfare. You know what I mean? They let all those people in our border towns, they let them all in. We don't know who those people are.
No, I hear you.
We don't know if they say they're coming over here for the best life. I mean, I don't blame them. If I was in Mexico or in another town and I see just, you know, I could just go 8 hours or 20 hours north and live the high life and take a risk. Where do you think I'm going?
I'm going 20 hours north. I'm going to take the risk.
Exactly. But, I mean, from American standpoint, we don't know who you are. We don't know if you have our best interests in heart. And we let a bunch of sleeper cells in here and they start blowing up shit.
Well, I think both of us know at this point, right? And anybody who's watching is they guarantee you there's sleeper cells here. There is no doubt.
Yeah. Now,
right?
what
So
technology?
now what do you say, right? Is now you know they're here, and now we done bombed somebody. Now it's just, in my opinion, it's probably a matter of time before something fucking pops off.
Yeah, think about if you owned like a business that does. I mean, we just had Oklahoma City NBA Finals. I mean, I'd be a little bit nervous sitting in that stadium of 19,000 people. You want to wipe out 18,000 people, you blow up a stadium full of Americans.
Yep.
And it's concentrated. I'm not saying
Changes your perception. doesn't it?
it changes your perception as far as if you want to get in that stadium or not, or airplane.
Yep.
Think about airlines, you know. Think about traveling outside the country. Think about these other countries that depend on our traveling for tourism, and you don't want to leave the nation. And now, you know, we're not buying tequila in Mexico, and we're not going to Cabo, but we are going to Costa Rica Wednesday.
We are going to Costa Rica next week. Well, actually, 2 days.
Yeah, Tuesday.
2 days. So we'll probably shoot a podcast from Costa Rica. It'd be kind of cool. So stay tuned for that. But moving on to what you were saying, right? It brings me on to the next topic, and that's trade and supply chain shortages, right? If we go into some kind of all-out war, you can bet your ass there's going to be supply chain shortages. They're talking about what's the Strait of, what's it called? Where the oil, where all the oil's coming through.
Yeah.
What's that called? The Humas or what? Hormuz, right? The Strait of Hormuz or whatever.
They shut that thing down.
They shut that thing down. You watch what happens. Oil prices are going to go crazy high. And what do you think that's going to do for somebody like myself? I run a ton of trucks. Now, all of a sudden, overnight, my fuel bill, which is already $50,000-$60,000 a month, what do you think that's going to be? 100? You can't hardly act fast enough.
You can't.
You can't hardly act fast enough.
No.
So that's just another one of these little implications that if we go into and you're a small business, you better be paying attention and you better know which way you got to pivot. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll be some kind of an essential situation to where the government needs you or the general public needs you and you get paid one way or another. But if you're not, it might be a bad deal for you. So,
I mean, I think the government at a certain level of like pain in the U.S., they'll shut down like payments. They have control over.
they've done it before.
You know what I mean? They can do things to offset things. I mean, but that puts the U.S. in a bad position too, because somebody's eating it. You know, now are we?
No, they're just printing it. They're just printing more of it, even
Yeah,
more
that's
than
true.
they were. So
I think there's a positive to a war too. When you know, like in this case, in my opinion, when we've given this country, in particular Iran, multiple chances to not develop a nuclear weapon, to quit radicalizing some of their certain people in their country, and they continue to do all the above. You know, I think there's a certain point too that you have to defend yourself and kind of like.
I mean,
You know.
I'm with you, but I think it's funny is that we finally have a president that, I mean, he straight up told you what he was going to do, right? And
He told you he didn't want a war.
He told you he didn't, and he doesn't. You can tell by today's news, but at the end of the day, I mean, he drives the line and he holds the line, right? In my opinion, that's what we need. You know, and it may end up going to a war where, you know, we have to come out there and sacrifice and do what we got to do. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that the heart of what he's trying to accomplish is there. I think.
Well, if we're gonna go to war, in my opinion, let's just take them out really quickly. Take out all their Air Force, take out all their Navy, and let's get in and get out. Let's limit civilians as much as we can. Unfortunately, there's civilians gonna die, probably more on their side than ours, unless they start doing some crazy stuff inland, right? But let's go in there and get out. Let's limit it. Let's let them be a country still, and let's move in and out, and let's not try to hurt our economy and everybody else's around the world. I mean, think about it. We got Ukraine, Russia war. We have Iran-America war now. Iran or Gaza.
It's Israel, really.
Israel war.
Yeah.
And then you had now China is saying, hey, like they're just probably sitting there doing this, waiting for Taiwan.
Well, that's what we were talking about, too.
You know, Taiwan makes a shit ton of chips, computer chips that we have to have, and we're not making all those things in America yet. We cannot speed up fast enough. Now, being in our industry, there's a data center going on every corner. You know, so you're like, why? Well, it's a race to AI. It's a race to all those things. So quantum computing, AI, we've had multiple episodes, but back on the war, here's my opinion. I think when there's destruction, there's opportunity. When there's opportunity, there's destruction. And it all goes, the world's always going to be like that.
Yep. And what we're trying to do is tell you what we think is going to happen. And the next piece of this I think is going to happen is you're likely in some way, shape, or form, we're going to see a rise of cost of goods.
Well, we don't manufacture a lot of stuff here right now. Now, Trump's doing a good job, in my opinion, trying to bring a lot of that back to the U.S., but it takes time to retrain your population, build manufacturing companies.
That's the ticket. It's the time factor.
I don't think he's only been in office for less than 6 months.
In this term, but yes.
Yeah, I don't think he has had enough time to restructure America at this point in time. He's doing a pretty damn good job on it, but I don't think there's enough time to build, multi-billion-dollar facilities overnight. You just can't do it. It takes time to spend that kind of money. And then you got the human factor in there. And then you got a war on top of that. I mean, what do you do?
I don't know.
For me, like, we're already there. We both agreed to each other. Like, they knew what we were going to. I think they've been calling our bluff so long and we haven't done anything about it. And then Trump gets in. He's like, I can't let you call my bluff and me not do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit the go button and sent bombers from Missouri, Oklahoma, which is right north of us, filled them up in the air and bombed their sites overnight and flew them back, never touched the ground.
Yep.
Which is pretty crazy.
It is crazy.
And they didn't even know we were there.
It's because those B-2 bombers, they can't see them on radar.
Yeah, I was reading.
I think it's the B-2 that they can't see on radar. No, it's the stealth.
Their whole
the
stealth bomber is made out of one deal.
Yeah.
There's no rivets. There's no bolts. There's no screws. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's out of one thing, like one piece.
It's pretty impressive.
The technology we have in the U.S. is we only know what we know.
Yeah, that's the other
we
piece
got lasers and stuff. You know what I mean?
That's the other piece of it.
Wasn't it kind of funny how there was an earthquake randomly in Iran?
Yeah.
It's like,
Are they testing something underground? I don't know.
And there's like a biblical religious side of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to go there.
That's a whole nother subject for another time. But it just sucks because I'm just telling you right now, if from owning multiple businesses, being in multiple different things, I mean, I get a little nervous, not just because I might ship off my son or daughter. I get a little nervous for what happens between now and then.
Well, dude, the reality is that we have a lot of money and a lot of time invested in this, right? And one decision that you have no control over to some degree can change the outlook and the economics of everything around us.
Yeah. Think about when the government redirects spending from building roads and bridges and maintenance and they put
to
defense and you're a local contractor building roads, streets, and bridges, and then all of a sudden there's no money funding it anymore.
I know, dude. It's crazy.
Hospitals.
So let's talk about the next one. And the next one is wartime policies, right? And what I mean specifically, I just wrote two of them down, but is price controls. So they're known in wartime policies to do price controls of things. And what was the other one? Rations. Which in our lifetime, we've never seen anything like that, right? But when you get to the point of where you do rations, like the same amount of goods aren't getting consumed. So if the same amount of goods aren't getting consumed, the same amount of waste isn't getting disposed of. So we're in the waste industry. So all of these things we're talking about, and there's quite a few here, can impact our business. And I know a lot of people who are watching this that have their own small business or large business. Any of these little small things that we're talking about here, it's going to impact your business. Well, there's a lot to talk about with this particular topic. So that was part 1. Make sure you come back next week to listen to the rest because it gets better and better as we go.